sitting here talking about nothing, you know? I don't think anybody cares about that. But Theo, do you think that the 1-1 is worth third? Like normally in a super flex, obviously, you know, you have to have third round reversal, but do you think 1-1 in an NFFC format like Justin Jefferson is worth the third round reversal?
Well, I think right now people are kind of a little bit like more open to being like the 103, the 104.
Right.
But you know that like when the summer goes along, there's going to be like a little bit more craziness. Like the Joe Burrow thing today, like Jamar Chase is my 102. But now it's like, do I want to take Jamar Chase at the 102 with, you know, the quote unquote calf injury?
Yes.
So and things happen throughout the summer. It's the same thing like right now, Alan. We've talked about how much I really like drafting from like the 12 hole. And in NFFC you get that first pick in the third round, so you kind of like get a little bit of an edge when you pick in the 12, but like a lot of the guys that have been getting at the 12 and the 201 that seem like incredible values, all it takes is one injury or a little bit of summer steam and those guys get pushed up, and then you feel like you're kind of playing catch up. So right now I feel open to everything. We've avoided like all these injuries all off season, and then you know over the next couple of weeks it's gonna be choppiness. It happens every single year.
Yeah. Well, Stopa, he didn't really answer my question though. So do you you remember in the past like LaDainian Tomlinson
No, it's not. Yeah, Justin Jefferson is not the like. He's not going to finish. He's not going to finish 6 points ahead of wide receiver 2.
Right.
Yeah, it's not so unfair that you're screaming for an auction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? Auction, and I'm starting to think you auction people are like IDP people. Whereas is auction just more mainstream?
Well, I'll say this: and NFFC has the best auction in the whole country. If you go to, so I draft in the New York City ones, and Billy Wazowski and Chris Vaccaro in this draft. They're two of the best players in the country, but certainly in the New York live drafts, those are two guys that like you don't want to be going against. There's a auction, a $2,500 auction on Friday. We all draft against each other at like 8:00 at night, and there's a 6:00 at night draft. I usually jump in, but there's like this afternoon auction, and it's the greatest auction ever. It's a $2,500 auction. And
what makes it great? What makes it great?
The quality of the player, and it's the highest stake auction league around. I don't think that the competitors to the NFFC have correct me, I could be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure that was a unique number for an auction league. I don't know. It certainly drew in some heavy hitters in that New York draft. Like there was some Jack Hahn came in for that draft. Again, Billy was in there. Chris was in there. Chris Ebel, who's an NFFC Hall of Famer. Michael Edelman, who's an NFFC Hall of Famer. Nelson Sousa, Glenn Lowy. Like
this sounds like your cup of tea, Stopa. You should be in this one.
Well, I just think auction is better. You know, the quality of the competition aside, it's just better. You have access to every player. There's never a lull. You always have to be on your toes every second. If you fall asleep for a second, you could miss the bargain of the draft, a bargain of the auction.
That's a good point.
It's just more intense, and I love intense.
Stope, it wears you out though mentally. So good call, Billy. Shout out to Billy. He says they have a 5K now in Vegas.
You know what?
Billy, that's cool, man.
I'm gonna send the link to Billy. He needs to get in here if he wants. I'm gonna tweet it to him so he can jump in here with us. That's silly me. I should have done that already.
Billy Wazowski is a great drafter, and I know people say that about like lots of people, but he's like a great drafter and also a really, really good guy.
I see. I have a different opinion. I think he's a rotten son of a bitch.
Yeah, he's sniped you a few times, huh, Alan?
Nah, he's a good guy. Well, he's a ski brother, SKY. The ski brothers are great. You know, anyone with a SKY last name.
You guys have like solidarity.
Yeah. I don't know if he's Polish or Jewish, though. You know, I mean, that would make a difference in how I feel about him. So
it's the SKY though. The SKY.
Nice. So Stopa, you're a wide receiver drafter. You're picking a pick 3. We know what you're doing. Does the third round reversal throw you off at all? Like, is it?
I wanted to do a practice format of this, and I did one of these the other day before I did this one, just to kind of get a flavor for which side of the board I wanted to be on. and I preferred the early side. And so I'm glad I'm at 3. I would have preferred 1 or 2, but I think that to me, I wanted to kind of see it play out, and I wanted to be on the early side, and I think it'll become clear why that is. But a lot of it's like, which position you prefer in the later rounds? Like, who do you feel more comfortable with in rounds 4, 5, 6? So
good point. Hey, Todd. Todd's in the house. Todd, Theo, Stopa, Todd Burrow.
I don't know Stopa.
hi.
Oh, if you have audio like that, I'm going to throw you right out, Todd.
Every time I hear the name, I want to say "In the Name of Love."
There you go. What's up with your audio? You don't bring the good microphone on for us?
No, not at all.
Horrendous. I mean, it really sounds like crap.
Does it?
Yes.
What's up, Todd? How we
Plug
doing,
that
brother?
mic in, Todd. Come on. Bring out the good stuff for us, you son of a bitch. There you go. Good man, Todd. Bringing out the good stuff. All right, here we go. We're underway. Theo is on the board. Don't screw this pick up, Theo.
Not my first rodeo, Alan.
There you go. See, this board that has no names on it is kind of like a
Any
low
major
key.
dude will tell you.
Yeah, it's it says your name on the sticker. Oh, look, but what I tell you, Stopa, McCaffrey goes number 2. I know my.
You were correct.
Yep. All right. I wonder if that's just the guy that if Alessio is a guy that just wants running backs, or if the Joe Burrow scare really influenced the pick. By the way, Todd, it's just a free for all here. You could there's no like format to the show, so
It's okay. I just woke up, so
I was planning to take Cup all this time, and it did occur to me when Burrow got hurt today. Maybe somebody will pass on Chase because of that.
My boy Chung is a 0 RB type guy. He's gonna load up with wide receivers. Really good drafter.
I can barely hear Theo.
Well, I can hear him great. You got to put some. By the way, I know Bijan. I've been touting him, but in this format, 3 receivers plus a flex PPR. I'm not screwing around here. This is for real money.
He will not put his money where his mouth is, ladies and gentlemen. Alan Seslowsky.
Yeah,
very disappointing.
I'm probably gonna regret it, but I know the room. You remember how our number one advice, Theo, is always know the room.
Got to know the room.
Yep.
Got to know who you're drafting against.
Yep. And it's just gonna be.
I have no idea who I'm drafting against or why I'm even here, other than Alan invited me.
Well, because I love you, Todd. You want to,
I mean that it's a hard force to resist.
You're my boy. You know that. You're where I go, you go. I'm a coward.
I wonder if you'll still love me after I make my first pick.
I'll always love you. Let's see what your first pick is. Here we go.
Am I up?
Yeah, it better be who I think it's going to be.
Oh, it's not going to be who you think it's going to be.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm good with that. Little toe tap action this week, right, Theo?
Billy's gonna take. I don't want. Am I allowed to tabletop?
Yeah.
here?
Now
Yes.
you can. It doesn't matter.
Billy's gonna take Amon-Ra St.
Yeah.
Brown.
So, by the way, that's who that Theo. I almost took him at 6.
Billy might take a running back here for balance.
Yeah. No, he took AJ Brown.
Or he's taking AJ.
Yeah, Amon-Ra has been my wide receiver 3 in Dynasty. I literally almost took him at 6, but it is what it is here. I'm a little surprised that Todd that you have the full faith in Devontae Adams to take him this early.
No.
Tell us how you really feel, brother.
No, but he's Devontae fucking Adams, and
Yep.
I mean, will he hit the high seal? I mean, I think he's a perfect blend with Wilson, right? So you've got the young guy who's got that ability to give you the number, top 3 season, and then you've got Adams, who's like the best technical receiver in the game.
So it actually happened, boys and girls that are watching. Someone got the Mahomes-Kelsey stack because Kelsey fell to 9. Mahomes, Theo, if you would have had Kelsey at 9, are you taking Mahomes there in the overall contest?
Not in NFFC. In NFFC, if you take tight end and wide receiver, you're playing catch up at 2 spots, and the third wide receiver starting is.
You mean tight end quarterback?
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Tight end quarterback. Yeah, you like tight end quarterback. You can kind of pull off in other in other formats and NFFC competitor sites, but it's still hard there in my opinion too. Like Todd, you're trying to Todd, you see it every single best ball draft you're in. Like it happens every draft.
And again, I don't chase what worked last year. Right? That's what worked last year.
I'm up.
And you're paying a top premium for both ends of that. And, but one half of that end is 48 years old now?
It's just, it's also I feel like you're trying to thread the needle because so much is pushed on that correlation. And you're playing catch up at two spots. So I agree with you, Todd. I think if you want to find,
for best ball, I take it occasionally because, it's stupid not to have some of it. Yeah. But at the same time, in a one-off managed league, this is the only NFC I'm going to be doing. I mean, you could have. I don't think you could have paid me to take that combination.
But by the way, you listening should do more than one NFFC. That's why we're here today. So Todd, don't do the anti-promotion. Greg
I'm
and
sorry.
Yeah.
I thought it was just the four of us hanging out.
Well, it is. It is. Stopa, Kelsey, Mahomes. I know you got to feel differently that in an overall contest, you're happy to take guys like that, right?
I like if you're swinging to try to win the whole thing.
Well, aren't we all
trying to stack? Sure. But I do agree that you are going to be chasing receiver if you go quarterback, tight end like this, and so it's tough. Is there somebody? I think the question is there somebody in rounds 4, 5, 6, 7 that you feel comfortable with? Multiple guys you feel comfortable with there, or otherwise you're going to be chasing.
Hey, Theo, what do you think about Barkley again falling to the middle of the second round to Chris Vicario? I mean, I thought for sure he was going to be back up in the first round, but you're not going to take him before Lamb. Garrett Wilson or St. Brown would be the spots right there, but I can't fault Todd and Billy for going for the wide receivers. Knowing that Barkley's locked in, are you shocked that he's now that pick 2.5, 2.6?
I think he got him at a slight discount. I think he could have been considered at the turn, but you had Billy and Todd both go wide receiver, and that's probably
Smith also. Devontae Smith went ahead of him.
Yeah. So this one for me, I thought about this earlier today. I figured this would kind of be. I knew I would get sniped on Olave. I would have loved Olave to fall to me, but I think that the edge pick right here with the injury to Taylor is to push up Tony Pollard. So I'm gonna take Tony Pollard.
Yeah, if they don't sign anybody by week 1, Todd, where do you predict Tony Pollard will go in these high stakes leagues?
Higher than he is, but not by much. I mean, it's all real close right here. I mean, the problem I have now is if the guy that I want goes, there's nothing worse than getting sniped.
Yeah, but there's no sniping in high stakes.
Not snipe, but and there goes Taylor. So
Jesus Christ, he goes at the 3-1.
I wanted Pollard or Taylor, and it's a drop off to whoever I take here. I'm going to
go ahead. Go. You can pick. Theo, were you even deciding between Pollard and Taylor, or was that a hard choice? Because a month ago that was this was Taylor easily. I understand. I don't blame you for passing on Taylor. Why was that even a tough choice for you?
Yeah, it's definitely a tough choice. I mean, I think that the Taylor presents an incredible upside. I do worry about a couple of factors. I mean, obviously the fact that he's starting the year on PUP. We also have he's already kind of limited in terms of what he can give you as a receiver. So you're really kind of banking on extreme yardage and extreme touchdowns. And I worry about the kid Anthony Richardson taking away, 4, 5, 6 touchdowns right on the goal line. So I think Taylor's upside's just a slightly capped. But yeah, if they were completely healthy, then I would probably have considered Taylor. But I like Pollard. I think this is his year. I think they're going to use him a lot more as a receiver. I agree with Todd, though. I think that Tony Pollard, like an NFFC, maybe he could rise up 3, 4 spots. But structurally, I think he gives me a lot of upside. When I have the Jefferson hammer, if a really good wide receiver doesn't fall to me, then I like leaning into Pollard. I think there's a little bit of upside there. And I know at 36, 37, I'm going to have some very strong options.
That
They're both
Jefferson
good
Pollard
picks.
start is sick.
They're
That's
both-
a sick start.
Which one?
Jefferson Pollard is a sick start. I have tons of Pollard, and I agree. I've been drafting him over Taylor all summer. That's a sick start.
Appreciate that.
That's the kiss of death right there, by the way. Kiss of death.
Vaccaro doesn't like any of his options here.
I think you can argue either guy, right? I think, again, what I'm disappointed at is I like Ramondre a lot, but to me, there's a significant teardrop. Taylor, Pollard, and Stevenson. That is, I mean, you guys do these all the time. What do you think of me taking Stevenson there?
It's a good pick. I mean, Stevenson in round 3 is fair because everyone can see Stevenson finishing as a top 12 player, but there's risk, and that's why he falls to the 3rd round. And when you start receiver, these are your options. I mean, I probably would side with Derrick Henry, but I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. I mean, look, I took Jahmyr Gibbs, Stevenson, Henry, Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, you don't know how to parse these guys out. The pick that I wanted to ask you guys about, what the hell was it? Oh, it's the Andrews went. I like that. I was eyeballing him up. Damn. You know what someone said? NBA rigged. He said that why is tight end QB not stack not ideal in NFFC, but perfectly fine in Scott Fishbowl? And the reason is because Scott Fishbowl's a free league.
And Scott Fishbowl's also a heavily tight end premium.
Yes, that's
and
true too.
And NFFC, you're starting 3 wide receivers. You have drafters who are aggressive towards wide receiver, and you have a flex that people like to fill with wide receivers. So you can get completely jammed if you keep passing up on wide receivers. And a lot of times, those wide receivers you think you're going to get in the 7th go in the late 5th. And you sometimes have to dive into it because wide receiver does not exist on the waiver wire in NFFC. It just doesn't.
Yeah. But also, it's when people have stake in the game, when there's money in the game, that's what the real picks are. When there's a free league and there's no stake in the game, people are more willing to like kind of like plant flags and things like that. It's a psychological thing. But your rationale is like the sound like game theory rationale.
I want to hear Alan. You didn't want to take Bajan because you thought it was a receiver type format, but then you took 2 backs after that. I want to hear an analysis on that.
Yeah. Well, I don't like the receivers in round 3 as far as like they feel like you have to reach. So I was definitely going to take a running back in round 3. And, I was expecting to get Devontae Smith in round 2, but when Nick Chubb fell there, I just took value. So you're right now. I mean, friend of the Scott Pianowski, one of his best pieces of advice is make sure you draft 3 receivers that always start themselves. I still am comfortable in the next few rounds with the receivers that are auto starts. So it's just knowing where the value is. And I just think that, like, it's almost like, you remember hero running back? This is hero wide receiver for me.
Interesting. Because I like some of the receivers here in this range. So that's a matter of personal preference. And for the viewers, take a look at the formats, like what position you take in the first round can depend on who you like in those 3, 4, 5, 6.
That goes back to that goes back a little bit to what Theo was talking about, right? So in this format, the way I see it, you've got to choose your poison, right? So you're not going to get 3 wide receivers, 2 running backs, a quarterback,
Christian Watson,
and a tight end, all that you like, right? You're going to have to choose what you're going to wait on and hope for. And every draft is different. And sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't. But, that, again, it goes back to why you don't go Kelsey and Mahomes. And then you put DK Metcalf. I mean, that's a 3rd guy. That's your number 1 wide receiver who might not even be the number 1 receiver on his own team.
Yeah, that
statistically hasn't been.
No, it's a really good point. And it's not even like best ball when you're just getting those spike weeks. I did not think I thought for sure Christian Watson, I didn't want to say it at the time, Stopa, but I thought for sure Christian Watson was coming back to me. I should have known who I'm in the damn room with, Theo, because I am not sure why Christian Watson is not being valued or even thought of as in the same tier of Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson when he broke out just as much as those guys. It was just in a different part of the season. He was wide receiver 9 from week 10 on. That's a 2-month sample, small sample, but football is a small
He didn't
sample.
break out in the same way either.
Correct. But the risk is priced in.
He goes when he goes because of that as well, right? His floor isn't as safe as Olave's, in theory, right? That's what we're drafting. We're drafting in theory. Watson has. Let's go back a little bit. 16, 18 months ago, if I told you Jordan Love was going to be the quarterback of the Packers, you might not want any of his wide receivers at any reasonable price. He looked like a complete bust. And if we had said at that point that Aaron Rodgers was going to retire after last year, and Watson would be, but Love played better last year. But even the Packers are saying we don't know what we have with this guy. So, Watson is a risk on top of a risk. And, people don't like when you use this phrase, but I do like Watson more for best ball. I get why you take him, but I like him more for best ball because I don't, he's Theo's second wide receiver. You're going to start him every day. I just don't know that he's going to put up the 10 points you want every week. He might be more of a 25-point, 6-point guy. Mark, what's your thoughts on that?
I wanted to get, at the time I picked Ridley, there were three guys that I wanted 2 of: Ridley, Watson, and Debo, and I only got 1 of them. And that's where I preferred to be at 1 or 2 for that very reason, because I feared that those couple picks would make a difference. And to me, there's a big difference between Ridley, Watson, and Debo, and then the drop off to McLaurin. I think there's a teardrop there, and that's part of why I like that team 1 setup for the viewers a lot. That to me is
Theo's doing a great job.
Terrific start. And maybe I made a mistake I should have waited on Ridley and taken Debo first, because Ridley's a little lower on the ADP. Would you have taken Ridley if I didn't take him?
I'm not huge on Ridley right now, but I think in this format, he does make a lot of sense when he falls to like the 3-4 turn.
That means he doesn't want him, Stopa.
No, I get it. I like the kind of the unknown upside, Todd, with Watson. I think the fact is, we don't really know exactly what we're going to get. I think that there's a small sample size, but I think just the tape with Watson, the guy looks like another level type player, and he runs away from NFL defenses. And right now his target competition is another second-year player who was a day 3 guy, and Jaden Reed, who we like, but Jaden Reed is, again, an older wide receiver coming in, projects more like a slot. And then the tight ends are both rookies. And then Aaron Jones was also
I think you're going to do more than you're going to do a lot of these, right?
Yeah, I'll do quite a few.
I think having that kind of high volatility on a team with Jefferson, if you're going to do volume in this contest, is a great thing. It's not going to be. It wouldn't have been what I would have done because of my volume in this contest.
Hey, by the way, if you want to enter the next Beat Allen Seslowsky, and by the way, we're giving away a free RotoWire subscription to anyone that places higher than me, so we're not giving out any this year. It's obvious. But in the link in the video description below, I put the link. It's the August 24th. That's a Thursday at 8 p.m. We're doing another RotoWire Online Championship. It's a Thursday at 8 o'clock. So if you want to get in on this action right here, I put a link in the YouTube description. So if you're watching on Twitter or on Facebook, go over to YouTube, or just go to the NFFC, playnffc.com, and you can get in on that action. Guys, the quarterbacks go. I took Herbert. Burrow goes immediately after. Now Fields is off the board, so I expect a little bit of a weight on QB at this point here. We'll see. You never know. Some of these sharp players here have a couple more of these quarterbacks in this tier, and you never know what the room is. And so far it's been an interesting draft. The other one that the Breece Hall falls to the middle end of the 7th round. Mark Stopa, I am just not drafting Breece Hall in the 5th round, the 6th round. It's just all bad vibes at this point, which is ironic because now Javonte Williams goes where the vibes have been good.
Yeah, I want nothing to do with Breece Hall right now, anywhere near his ADP. Here's what I think is interesting about this board, guys. Look at the first 3 teams. I wanted to be early on because I thought that in the first 4 picks, you could get 3 receivers who are studs and then a stud at another position. So, and 2 of us did that, team 1 and team 3, which is me. Or team 2 doesn't have any receivers at all. It'll be really interesting to see how his team fills out because I think he's going to be chasing receivers and it's going to look pretty ugly there later on. But let's see how that goes. So for the listeners, that was my strategy, is exactly how team 1 and team 3 look, to try to get 3 stud receivers in the first 4 picks and then a stud in another position.
Theo, somebody asked me why I took Jahmyr Gibbs over Josh Jacobs and ETN. Can you answer that question for me?
I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs has incredible upside as a receiver. It's a better offense it's one of the best offenses in the NFL. And I think there's Jahmyr Gibbs, if you're swinging for upside in a tournament type setting, I think you want a lot of exposure to Jahmyr Gibbs right now. Todd, if everything goes right with Jahmyr Gibbs, he's putting up Alvin Kamara, Reggie Bush receiving numbers as a rookie. I think that he's
Darren Sproles. Don't forget.
I started out fading him pre-draft, but he literally got the nut landing spot, right? If you could have handpicked where he would go, how they would go get him, Detroit was the perfect landing spot for him. And I don't know how you can be, him and Travis Etienne are both very interesting because there's a case could be made that they go too early. There's a case that could be made they go too late. And so I think they both go exactly where they should go. And I think you have to mix both of them in.
Hey, I saw right before my pick, Chris Vicario takes Deontay Johnson. I forgot. I invited Chris in this draft, and now I'm already regretting it because Deontay Johnson's a player that I've been getting in the 7th round. I know that in the NFFC you're not going to get him in the 7th round, but I thought for sure he would come back. It's funny when you draft with all good players. I always want to draft with good players like Todd Burrows, like Theo Grebinger, like Mark Stopa. But then when it actually happens, I get pissed off. So, the NFFC, by the way, is look at Todd laughing over there. You son of a bitch.
I mean, it's so true, right? We love to compete against the best, but the best make you regret drafting against them too.
The best, right? It's
so I was between taking another running back and Justin Fields. So I took Drake London because I have Drake London slightly ahead of any of the wide receivers that go after him, because I think there's that upside if they actually get decent quarterback play, and we've seen Taylor Heineke give Terry McLaurin decent quarterback play. So I like Drake London. He catches up, and I think he's a good mix for Wilson and Adams, who are big high upside guys.
Todd, all the way. By the way, I also like Drake London a little more because the latest notes are that Pitts is still not 100%. So does that make you like Drake London a little bit more?
Well, but the thing I like about London, what sometimes gets lost in fantasy football is how people get the ball. And London gets the ball at the line of scrimmage as well as down the field, right? So they're going to throw him a couple screens every game. They're going to throw him a couple short passes every game. You're not going to, I don't expect too many, 3-4 point games out of Drake London. And, I think when you build a team, you want to consider floor and ceiling within that team so that you have both, right?
Hey,
you need to need to win to advance, and then you also need the upside to crush at the end.
Theo, you made your picks right there. Aaron Jones and Brandon Ayuk. You know, you double stacked San Francisco wide receivers. In addition to talking about, now look, George Kittle goes off the board. Are you okay having the 2 wide receivers? Are you going to never know which one to start? And I don't hate that at all. But also after that, I want you to
hate what Team 2 is doing.
Oh, Team 2. Okay.
I mean,
the 2 tight ends.
Team
not
two
only 2 tight ends, but
I also want someone to address Billy's team on the end there, doing the Fields DJ Moore stack.
The Fields DJ Moore stack is awesome. I love what he did there at the 4-5 turn. Billy has a very dangerous team, like he always does. For me, like I don't love a Debo Brandon Ayuk combination.
Yeah,
but
it's very unique.
Not to get too table talky, but
you could table talk. They're about 20 minutes. 25 seconds after us.
Like I feel like the wide receivers after Ayuk, I feel like I get a considerable edge taking Ayuk. I think that he's a dangerous player. He has a weekly ceiling. And I have a feeling that this year they're going to kind of get it together with San Francisco. I think people are a little afraid of the 4 of them, with the 4 being so highly drafted. But I think you just kind of have to take I think there's going to be weeks where like 3 of them do very well and 1 of them doesn't. And McCaffrey's probably obviously the most reliable one, but he's also the highest ADP one. But I think that Debo and Ayuk both are very, very talented players. They've both shown us their kind of ceilings. I don't mind double tapping it. It's not ideal, but I don't think it's going to kill me with Ayuk in the flex. And again, I have 3 kind of higher upside guys to go with Jefferson, who's extremely reliable week in, week out.
Stopa, talk about the JSN pick, Team Chung, who so far I like his draft, but I'm just scared to death of taking that rookie early on like that.
Chung's going to have 8 wide receivers by round 10. You watch. That's how he drafts.
Okay, you know him. All right.
Yeah.
I'm out on JSN and redrafted as ADP. I mean, I considered Lockett there instead of Cam, but to me, Lockett's got to be above JSN in redraft.
Todd,
I think you can argue that he should be ahead of Metcalf.
Right.
I mean, he's never going to go ahead of Metcalf.
No.
But the point being, well, let me keep my mouth shut for one more.
Okay.
Pick.
So Theo, real quick.
Oh,
I took hold on a second. Theo, I took Darren Waller in round 6. I just didn't think he was coming back to round 7. There was a note today that they had to take Waller out of practice today because Daniel Jones was just throwing to him too much. So he is locked in there. Darren Waller was already been the tight end 1 in fantasy football. I'd rather take him in round 7, but I don't want to have to think about starting the tight end.
He wouldn't have made it back to you in round 7.
Right. There you go.
I would have taken him. I wasn't going to pass on. I mean, Tyler Lockett was the guy that I wanted.
Right.
And, to me, that was the easiest pick of the night. But I was hoping that he would make it back.
Thanks, Theo. I appreciate that.
My one concern about Lockett
kidding, Todd. I know it was you, Todd. I know.
My one concern about Lockett is that I think JSN could eat into his production a little because their skill sets are a little similar, at least more similar to each other than they are to Metcalf's. So that'd be my one concern there.
Yeah, I'm sitting here on the board, and I mean, clearly the best player on my board is Kyle Pitts, but I've got Drake London. Fuck it. Smart, dumb guys. You guys play this format a lot more than me.
Oh no! Come on, we all are scared and to draft Kyle Pitts, and we're scared not to draft him. It's not like the format takes like our psychology out of it.
Well, this where he goes? Anyway.
I mean, he usually goes. I was taking him in round 5 of these NFFC drafts before today. So
gotcha.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not too worried that he's wearing a sleeve on his leg.
Right.
As long as we're not hearing that he's.
And what do they say, Todd? They say the mind of the expert only knows one path, right? And the mind of the beginner knows many.
I love that.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I normally in a best ball team won't put London and Pitts on the same team. That was more my hesitancy, but
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
The other guy I would have taken was a running back, and I don't know.
Yeah, no. So I don't want to
Who said something negative about Lockett? Was it you, Mark?
Yeah, not negative necessarily, just because I do think that Lockett was a good bargain where he went here. Just the one concern about him is JSN could eat into his production. We don't really know how that's going to play out because Seattle wants to run the ball. They drafted another running back, even though they already had Walker. So, how much are they going to throw, and how much is JSN going to play, and how much is he going to eat into Lockett's production? I definitely think Lockett and JSN should have been switched with where they picked.
Yeah,
where they were picked.
I also have 2 Seahawks and 2 Falcons, which again,
what could go wrong? What could go wrong?
Yeah,
Todd, center yourself. I don't want to look at the top of your head. I want to see your face. Todd, I want to see your beautiful face here, man. I want to see your beautiful face.
Where did I go?
There we go. The viewers need to see you. The viewers need to see you. All right,
they can see LT.
Hey guys, I think Rachaad White's a little undervalued here. I'm not just calling him out because it's a pick, but it's the old dead zone was like the 5th round. It seems like that these guys are now falling to the Dameon Pierce, DeAndre Swift, Rachaad White, the PPR hopefuls are now falling to the 7th round. It's pretty interesting.
People hate drafting Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now, and that's part of it.
Yeah, it's just like they hated drafting Seattle Seahawks last year. But they'll draft Houston Texans, no problem, right?
He was certainly in my queue, and I'll say they draft one Houston Texan.
All right,
Houston Texan.
Dalvin Cook goes off the board. This is the player I wanted to talk about. I didn't want to call him out here. It's Stope, you can jump in first. I mean, it's almost like at this point no upside for Cook, but what if he ends up being a Jet?
I'm completely out on Cook. Here's where I think the issue Here's where I think the issue is. His ADP and all these things is early based on when he was the starter in Minnesota, and people are still drafting him because they think they're getting a value based on where his ADP has been. But that's a completely arbitrary number, and I think they're just missing the boat. I think that he's being overdrafted uniformly in every format, and I have 0 of him out of more than 100 drafts so far.
I just want to let everyone know right now what you're seeing right here is a $350 entry NFFC RotoWire Online Championship. You can participate in one of these as well. There's a $250,000. Well, actually, it's really not available, the $250,000, because I'm guaranteed to win it. So the second place is still available if you want to win it, but you can jump in. I've put a link in the video description below, or just go to playnffc.com and you can see. You can enter the contest, but I put a link if you're watching on YouTube to enter the contest, and specifically they beat Alan Seslowsky. Put it in. It's August 24th. It's a Thursday. There's a link to join that draft as well. All right, on the turn, George Pickens, James Conner. I think everyone in this panel loves James Conner in the 8th round. Am I right? Thumbs up, guys.
No.
Okay, Todd, go ahead.
I think I think he could have a lot of 12 for 37s incoming.
He's never had that in his career. He's always been like RB 11 in his career.
I've discussed this with a few people. I think he is the worst pick out of those running backs. I also see why a guy like Theo would take him. Well,
Todd, I get slightly.
Let me finish, and then I want to hear what you have to say back. So he's an older, inefficient running back behind a bad offensive line in a bad offense. And so
Theo's turning orange right now, by the way.
And so many times we hear the thought process. Well, he's the only guy there. And then the next minute we hear running backs don't matter. You can always find a running back. So, I get the upside. I get why guys like Theo are on him. It's just not the type of guy that I draft.
I think that there's an argument to be made that it takes the foot off the gas type of pick, where it's more of a structural RB3 pick. I get that, Todd. But at the end of the day, like Alan talked about, when James Conner is on an NFL field, the guy puts up points. I mean, And you can say that, he struggles to stay on the field at times, he misses time, etc. But like in terms of points per game, last year he was like 15 points per game last year. And I think that he's going to be a guy that they completely rely on. And he had 46 receptions last year and when like 13 games played. So, he's had a couple seasons where he's giving you at least a little bit of receiving work. So I'm not like scared of him. Again, I wouldn't want to.
I get the case, but the one other thing I'll throw in, and like I said, I get the case. It's just not my pick, and I shouldn't have said it was a terrible pick.
No, you should have, because that makes good radio.
It was good radio, right? But I will say one of the underrated factors is, and I studied the air raid offense when Kingsbury first came in. That is a really good offense for running backs. Running backs have always done well. They're going to a different system. I don't know. But, the guy that I would have taken just went, David Montgomery. To me, I've got David Montgomery at least one, maybe two tiers ahead of James Conner.
You know what? That's hold just right there. That's a fair argument, Montgomery versus Conner, but it's not as like a slam dunk. But because the GOAT Jahmyr Gibbs, who I drafted, who's going to be RB1 overall, screw Bijan. I'm changing my take immediately. Is there no? But I understand that those two guys are the the stinky cheese guys that that go in the 8th round that probably should go in the 5th round, right? They should go where Madison goes. They have the same chance as as finishing as a top 12 running back as Madison does, but yet they go a couple rounds later. But
are you guys trying to win 5th place? I mean, you take David Montgomery and James Conner, you're playing for 5th. I want to win $250,000. I'm taking Penny. I want to win $250,000. So,
by the way, the only reason I am all I love the Penny pick. I wanted him when I wanted him now, and he's not there. So I get I'm gonna make it easy for somebody. I'm gonna take someone a little further down the board.
Hey, look, Stopa, your boy Kevin Bachlich, he's rooting for you here. See this right here? He said,
that's a smart man right there.
I love the Penny pick. I think.
And by the way, Todd, good pick right here with Samaje Perine. I thought he was going to fall a little further, given the optimism right now on Javonte Williams. Theo, do you want to take a shit on Todd's pick here of Samaje Perine a little early, or mix it up a little bit?
No, it's got some outs. I don't mind Samaje.
Outs. This isn't Dynasty.
No, it has some outs. There's a chance that Javonte Williams, has the injury flare up, and I think that there's a chance that
you're too
they
political.
want to go.
You're too political.
Well, I think that Perine has, in this format, has some slight flex value, and again, Todd gets his RB3 there. So I think that it's going to start getting a little uglier for running back.
Sean Payton has always thrown to backs a ridiculous amount. We could be looking at 60 catches for Samaje Perine. So,
all right, guys. So I just want to bring it back to a structural thing for anyone thinking about doing an NFFC draft. So here's the case for taking wide receivers early. So, okay, in my specific situation, I got Tyreek. I have Mike Williams stacked with Herbert. But the problem is now that I have Gabe Davis in round 8 is my 3rd receiver, right? So, and again, substitute anyone you want there. Dotson, Elijah Moore, Flowers. You want those guys to be your 4th receiver, because if Gabe Davis has 3 for 30, 2 for 12, am I going to feel comfortable starting this guy in week 3, Theo?
It's not really quite a comfort level with him. But again,
that's my point. You want to take receivers early because you don't want to be in this situation.
But to Stopa's point, it is a high upside type play if you're getting down to the, a lot of times if you're trying to make up points in a particular week, especially in the money weeks, having a high variance guy is not necessarily the worst thing.
Yeah, but go back to the beginning here, Theo. can you take well, you obviously have answered the question. You can't take the onesie guys, you can't take two of the onesie guys, tight end or quarterback, in the first 5 rounds and then expect to have a viable every week wide receiver 3.
Yeah, I mean, it's you hardly ever see it win in the NFFC. I'll say that. Like, it's a lot of times when you start playing catch up at wide receiver, you never catch up completely, and doesn't matter how you are at the other positions, because again, other people are starting 4 of them, and sometimes you're playing behind on potentially 4 spots in the week. So yeah, it's not my structural choice. Now you're gonna start seeing quarterbacks go off the boards here, guys.
Damn it. Yeah, it's like the guys I've drafted, I haven't drafted in any drafts. But listen, that's sometimes how it has to happen. You have to draft guys that you're not comfortable drafting when you're in a different room, you know?
You're doing a great job of drafting so that a bunch of guys get a RotoWire subscription. It's a good thing.
Ouchie. Ouchie. I'm just giving away stock in the company. So, Theo, any plans on attacking quarterback anytime soon?
I think you've got to pay attention to the runs, but again, I think it's a little bit flat. I do like Daniel Jones. I took him like 2 nights ago. I think he's got upside. You know, the guy ran for over 700 yards last year, and now you have year 2 with Dable. They've added a proper receiver for him with Waller. And I think some of the whole joke about they're adding all these slot receivers, it's not necessarily good for us in fantasy, but in terms of real life football, they've got a lot of guys who can make first downs. So they've got Saquon Barkley, got Darren Waller. They've added speed with Hyatt. I think Campbell is a versatile guy, and it's going to be an interesting year. So I like Daniel Jones. I like that pick, but I don't really see the need to kind of force quarterback. I don't know if you necessarily have much of an edge, forcing a guy up here. Yeah. It's kind of flat for me right now, Alan.
Yeah. Todd, Kadarius Toney goes. I mean, I was all in on taking him in round 6. Is round 9 good enough for the discount? I mean, is he like basically this year's Will Fuller?
I've never seen a guy who literally looks like he's possessed by demons. Right? You look at his eyes and he looks like a crazy person. I think that
nothing wrong with that.
I've been drafting a lot of Sky Moore in best ball. He was going 13th, 14th round early on. And I think you have to have some Toney in your portfolio. But just nothing makes sense with that dude. I mean,
yeah.
If you read Matt Harmon's reception perception, he doesn't have the traits of a number 1 wide receiver yet.
Yeah, but you just want nuclear upside with him, and especially in round 9, you want a guy that can win you a week. I mean, he certainly qualifies. I was taking him in round 6. Round 9 makes a difference. By the way, Stopa, do you know who the rapper Young Joker is? Have you heard of Young Joker?
I am not cool on pop
That's why I asked you.
in the slightest bit. So
Young Joker is Kadarius Toney, just so you know. If you look him up on Spotify, that is Kadarius Toney. And he's good. He's actually not a bad. He's not great, but he's okay. Young Joker.
I like the Jacoby Myers pick.
Okay, I'll take it. By the way, now that's the. You're not going to reverse jinx me, just so you know. That was my pick.
I wasn't trying to. I think he is a really, really solid pick.
All right, it's one of those. You know what? He's like this year's Jacoby Myers.
Exactly.
Yep.
Mark might think you're playing for 6th place, but
well, remember,
that was you two. Alan's playing for 9th place.
Just remember, there is a $1,500 prize in the NFFC for winning your league. You know, I mean, you get $750 for points, $750 for record. So, and when you play in a RotoWire Online Championship, you also get the 6-month subscription for beating the RotoWire analyst. I was going to say expert, but analyst. All right, I like the Tua pick. I was thinking about waiting on for QB. I was going to take Tua, obviously, because I have Tyreek Hill. Khalil Herbert, Stopa. Real quick, talk about him. He's the player that you think has the most significant upside in the Chicago backfield?
Absolutely. I mean, he strikes me as a little bit like a poor man's Tony Pollard in that.
And guys, by the way, I'm just going to refill my Jack and Coke so I can insult people more. Is that okay? So just make sure, Theo, if things get off the rails, I'm trusting you to.
Theo with Nico, good pick. And
Theo,
Charbonnet.
you're in control of this, okay? Just so you know.
You got it,
Go ahead,
Alan.
Stopa.
You got it, Alan.
We've all wanted Herbert to get more playing time, kind of like Pollard, and now that he does, nobody wants to draft him. So, I'm happy to take Herbert here. I do think he has some upside, and let's see where that goes.
I think it was a great pick.
Yeah, I like that pick as well.
I love pretty much the only pick of yours that I don't like, that I'm not on, is Madison. I don't think, back similar to the James Conner. I just don't think he's a very good back at this point. And but he's a lot like Conner to me, that you're getting a lot of opportunity. But I mean, Quentin Johnston, Rashad Penny, Akers, Herbert, Ridley, Josh Allen, Jamar Chase. I mean, that's a damn good team, brother.
Thank you, good sir. I think as the listeners are looking at setup, like the reason I wanted those 3 receivers early and then the stud quarterback is because I like those running backs that I got here, the Madison, Akers, Penny, Herbert, those upside guys. I think you can wait the first 4 rounds on running backs to get guys like that. And I think Madison has upside because he's a rare 3-down back. And I think the Vikings can be just a carnival, a good offense. They were 7th in points scored last year. They can be top 7 again. And their defense sets up to be pretty bad, I think. So I think they could be a carnival. And if he's a 3-down back because they don't have anybody else, then I don't know. I like my setup here. I like team one.
I like your structure too. I like your structure. And the only difference, if you really look at it, is I knew I wanted Aaron Rodgers and that I was willing to take him a little early. 6 points for a touchdown pass. I had Garrett Wilson. I'm real high on Aaron Rodgers this year. I feel like he still has it. I think he's going to hone in on Wilson. And so I felt like, I was going to take Rodgers a little early to make sure I got him. And that allowed me to take Stevenson. But I really like what you've done.
Well, I like what you did there with Rodgers with Wilson and I think viewers should understand, when you already have Wilson, Rodgers is more valuable to you than he is to anybody else, especially in a big tournament. If you're trying to win a bunch of money, pick as if you're right. So you presume you're right on Wilson. He's the 11th best player. He's on your team. Pick as if you're right. That means Rodgers is going to have a good year too. If Wilson doesn't have a good year, it doesn't matter. You're not going to win anyway. So that type of pairing is absolutely the right thing to be doing.
Yeah, and I was willing to not take a chance someone else took him, because I'm losing less taking Rodgers in the again, I don't follow this enough like I do best ball to have a sense of what I would be wagering by waiting again. I looked at a couple boards. I saw him go as late as the 13th round.
Right. He goes late.
I just didn't want to chance it. Once I got P. Ryan, my third running back, I felt like I could get someone coming back that wasn't much less than what I passed on.
Guys, I just want to remind everyone that tomorrow on the RotoWire YouTube channel, by the way, if you're watching right now on the YouTube, just make sure you click the subscribe button. Click the like button if you want to see more live drafts. We plan on doing that. If you hit the like button, that makes us understand that you want to see more drafts like this. And Theo and I will be on tomorrow morning. That's Friday morning at 10:30 a.m. live, reviewing the draft board, crapping on all the picks, talking about how great our teams are. But for real, we're going to give a good analysis. And right now, if you're watching the YouTube live stream, this is an NFFC RotoWire Online Championship, and you can sign up right now and get in your own NFFC championship. It's playnffc.com, and we put all the links in the video description below, including the next Beat Allen Seslowsky League, which is on August 24th. $350 to enter. So if you are a good fantasy football drafter and you want to get into it, click sign up, and you have a chance to win $250,000. Well, like we said, I've spoken for first place. Theo already claimed second place, and Todd has already claimed the $25 last place prize. So other than that, everything else is open. All right, Todd takes Darnell Mooney here, reaches on Aaron Rodgers, but we like the logic. We're going to see what Billy Wazowski does on the turn here, and we haven't checked in with Billy in a while. Gibson, by the way, Stopa, Gibson and DeAndre Swift. Never been cheaper than the 7th and 8th round. Those are Billy's the running backs right now. Any interest in those guys, especially at draft cost?
DeAndre Swift, yeah, he's got a lot of upside. I mean, I like guys on high-scoring offenses. So, I own a lot of DeAndre Swift in best ball, not as much as Penny, who I like Penny more a round or two later. But, there's nothing wrong with that at all. And I like Gibson, too. Let's see what Washington can do with that new Chiefs offensive coordinator and Bieniemy. There's some potential upside there. He's the only guy in that backfield who has any pass catch pedigree. So yeah, I like that combination.
We got let's give a couple shout outs real quick. We got Sarah B checking in. That's Kevin Bocklidge's wife, Stopa. So she's a fantasy football maniac too. We got our guy Mike Sanda in here. What's up, Mike? And then of course NBA Rig. And by the way, throw a comment right now. Anyone, let us know who's dominating this draft, and more importantly, let us know who the worst team is right now. That's what we want to know. We want to shame who the worst team is, and we're going to call out that person's name. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Theo. You were talking?
No, I think that Gibson's very interesting right now. There's a lot of good buzz with his role, and I think that they between Robinson and Rodriguez, they have like the thumper role. But Gibson, I think, could be a dynamic receiver out of the backfield. There's no more McKissick to deal with. And it sounds like, he's in the McKinnon type role. So we already know that he's a very successful fantasy running back. And now I think that there is an offensive coordinator who kind of will be able to get him. I think it's really, really high upside RB2 and RB3 that Billy has, especially with two guys that can catch the football. And in Swift's case, he's in a great offense. So I like what Billy did.
We see that Todd just took B. Robinson. How many people in their leagues this year are going to trade the wrong B. Robinson? They're going to trade Bijan accidentally, and we're going to have to reverse those trades.
Be an ugly scene.
I wanted Damian Harris, but I felt like I needed another wide receiver, and it's thinning out.
So you took Bijan. So you took Brian Robinson because you needed a receiver.
Well, no, I took Darryl Mooney.
Oh, you talked about the Darnell Mooney before that.
I took Mooney, and then Harris didn't make it back, so I settled for Robinson. But Robinson is one of those guys who I think people are sleeping on because I think they want him to be the number one guy. And, I know he doesn't have receiving chops, but, the guy did pretty good for a guy who got shot in the leg, before the season.
How dare you talk about something like that, Todd? How dare you? You're so sick.
Yeah.
Okay, we could listen. You're talking to guys that would draft Saddam Hussein if he was available. Okay, and he scored fantasy points, so don't worry about it. All right, I just take Jamal Williams there. Last year's touchdown scorer, no problem. It looks like some running backs are going off the board. Hey, Theo, before I get to Stopa. Jaylen Warren, he's been getting some buzz. Chris takes him in the 11th round. Is that, I thought this guy was like a 15th round handcuff. It seems like he's, as you like to say, steaming up the board.
He's definitely steaming up. And he's a handcuff.
Is it warranted? Is it warranted?
He's a handcuff plus. And we talk about Najee Harris, how the receiving work went down last year, and everybody kind of puts it on, the situation at quarterback and the offense and all that. But at the end of the day, Jaylen Warren came in and had nearly 30 receptions as a rookie. So, Najee Harris had 70 catches as a rookie and then went way down into the 40s while Warren was also catching balls. And Mike Tomlin has called out Warren, saying we need to get him, more involved in the offense. They've improved the offensive line. And also Najee Harris has been very fortunate being on the field pretty much his entire NFL career. He plays through injuries, very tough guy. But at the end of the day, if he missed time, I think Jaylen Warren would be around running back 18.
Interesting.
Mid RB2.
Harris might not even be good, right? Are we certain that Harris is good? I think there is some chance that Harris loses the job even if he's healthy.
He's a compiler. He's a very tough guy.
He's not going to lose. Yeah. He can't lose the job, though. Come on. This.
I don't agree with that. I don't think it's a lock that he keeps the job even if he's healthy. We don't know that he's good. His yards per carry are not good. He's just kind of a thumper.
Well, that's my point. Is that first round draft capital with the regime that drafted him. If it wasn't the regime that drafted him, I would say yes, you're right. But they are so attached because you're not even supposed to take a running back in the first round, and when you do and they fail, that's even like that. That's a like a right hook across the face here. I think that even if Najee is bad, he still maintains 50% role, and he'd have to be Zach Wilson bad, equivalent at the running back position.
I think you could see him, first of all, when you're thinking of all the factors with Najee, you got to realize he played with that bad ankle last year. I don't draft a lot of Najee because there's so much value, like Mark was saying. I love that tier where Mark was digging into. So I normally don't draft a lot of Najee, but the upside case for Najee is he played hurt the early part of the year and he improved down the stretch. They've improved the offensive line. The downside is that Jalen Warren was a more efficient running back, and he also, they've said they want him to play a little bit more. So I think the answer is that it's going to be somewhere in the middle. I think Warren is going to probably have a little bit more of a share, and it always comes down to the fact if Harris plays pretty good, he'll keep his role. Warren's going to really have to outplay him to get a bigger role.
All right, let's. While we're in the, by the way, my original plan was to do 10 rounds of this draft. I thought people would get bored, but it seems like the maniacs that watch this draft, this is where this is where it gets good. This is where people want to see where the players get drafted. Stopa taking Dalton Kincaid. That's going to be your primary tight end. You are a Bills fan. I mean, rookie tight ends. I mean, that's a thing, right? That they usually don't perform well. What gives you the confidence that Dalton Kincaid can be an every week starter for you?
Well, I didn't say I was confident in it. I mean, at this point, I don't have a tight end. I'll probably wind up getting a couple of guys and rotating. I mean, he certainly, the early buzz out of camp has been good. They obviously invested a bunch of capital, draft capital in him, and then traded up. So, obviously there's concerns about being a rookie tight end. But, I feel like I'm pretty solid on the other spots. So I gotta start getting some bodies in there.
All right, Theo, you took Dak Prescott. I mean, he seems to be the value guy. You get him in round 12. In previous years, he was around 5. Is this the player that, I mean, if you're going to play the weight on QB game, is this the primary target at this point?
I have not minded my builds when I draft Dak. I think he's fine. Again, I think that there's been certain drafts where he goes ahead of Danny Dimes. Tua, him and Tua and Danny Dimes, I think, are probably a similar tier. And I would say Rodgers is in that tier as well, but it made sense for Todd structurally to kind of push Rodgers and ensure he got that correlation. But I'm fine with it. I think Dak is fine. And I also like the Pollard. I like the Pollard Dak correlation too, because I think the bet on Pollard, if Pollard's going to return value at his ADP and have this season where he challenges for RB1 overall, at least top 5 numbers, he's got to improve as a receiver. So I think there is some correlation right there that they're going to lean on him a little bit with Schultz gone now. The offense, I think they're going to be a little less reliant on the tight end position that you've seen in past seasons with Dak. I think that they added Brandon Cooks and they've gone from Zeke to Pollard. So on paper, the offense is a lot more explosive, and I think Dak has some upside where he's being drafted. Todd
Burrows at Best Ball NFL. You were a little skeptical about coming on the live stream. Are you having fun today? I could tell you're having a lot of fun. I didn't know.
I love coming on live shows. I mean, I never turn down an opportunity to talk.
But I'm saying you were skeptical. You were like, "Oh, you sure you want me?" I was like, dude, do you understand that you are heavily the 3 guys plus myself that are on this are heavily RotoWire rotational guests at this point? I mean, do you not understand that?
I love that you love me. I mean, I am.
Give me a kiss, Todd. Give me a kiss.
I have gotten so much more. I mean, I can't even get. I thought Billy Musio was my friend. I thought Theo was my friend. I never get invited on there.
Screw those guys.
I even asked each of them to put me on, and they didn't.
Todd.
So the fact that you love me is just giving me.
Not only do I love you, I have you on the radio show. Todd, will you marry me, Todd? Come here.
No offense, but I don't date bald guys.
We're getting you on, Todd. I've only podcasted with you about 12 times at this point.
By the way, I just got my boy, and it's also why I don't take Derrick Henry where I take him.
That'll be your first drop.
I am so fucking. Excuse me. I'm so fucking high on Tajay Spears.
Throw him off the stream, Stopa. Hit the delete button on him. All right, guys. So
let's just say I'm not sad. I'm not sad he took Spears there. Let's just say that.
Yeah. All right.
You're not sad that I took Spears.
Not sad.
No, I like. I mean, look, who's the Stopa then? Who's the number two?
What don't you like about him?
Yeah, it's a good question.
I mean, he's the number two without much draft capital behind a guy who's going to swallow up all the carries unless he's healthy, unless he gets hurt. So I suppose he's an injury fade, but I think there's like, for example.
So they've always ran when they have a third down. They've always had a third down back. Last year, Hilliard got hurt, and then Henry got more volume. Henry's 28 years old. Spears was the third-round pick, so for running back, that is plenty of draft capital. So I thought, but at least you didn't say the knee. At least you didn't say the knee. Right. I've been able to pick running backs from watching tape very well each of the last 5-6 years, and I absolutely love Tajay Spears.
All right, that's fair. Listen, Tajay Spears is the Devi Bros love him. Theo, from all the podcasts I've done with you, he's a player profiler. He's a favorite. He's like one of our favorite picks in the second round.
Well, I mean, I'll say Stopa. Like, even if you don't like him, I think he's a direct handcuff at this point with all the Hassan Haskins stuff off the field. And I love the big dog too. I think the big dog is a good value this year. But again, it's an older running back that's he's been fortunate injury wise most seasons. So I'm gonna say that Tajay Spears here is kind of like it's a swing for the fences handcuff. But at the end of the day, I'd rather draft those kind of guys around this level. Like where I took Charbonnet, I think Charbonnet has a little bit more of a path. But like here, I think that this is like the range for the Bigsbys and the Spears is the Kendry Millers, the Gainwells. I think these are all fine values in the 12th and 13th.
I like Team 9 here that took DJ Shark. DJ Shark, again, his best games might be on your bench, so I guess that's more of we like him better in best ball. But I do think DJ Shark could emerge. We saw him a couple years ago. But, again, this range right here, you never know who you're going to drop. These are everyone that's picked from here on out is a week one drop candidate. Don't you agree on that, Burrows?
Oh, yeah.
Very good analysis.
But
excellent analysis.
Here's the thing. In the FFPC,
we don't talk about that. We don't talk about that bullshit here.
I am much more swing for the fences late. In where you have to start 3 wide receivers, I am much like a guy like Rashid Shaheed. Again, I'm not saying I know this format like you.
I want to interrupt this for an emergency.
But that's the guy I feel.
I need to interrupt your discussion here. I know you're going to hate this pick, but guys, week 13, you got to start a kicker. I'm taking Justin Tucker right here. It's a team kicker. I listen. I know it's a bad pick, but I don't want it. By week 13, I'm going to know if I'm out of it. So if you take Tucker, he's a top 5 kicker, and you don't have to ever hold him on your bench. Theo. Stopa.
Can I
go ahead?
Can I put the shame meme up?
We're gonna know you're out of it long before week 13.
I am taking Tucker in every draft in round 13 if you give him to me. Again, he's a top 5. Let me better position this. Theo, I'm gonna direct this. If you knew who the number 1 kicker was, what round? If no one else knew but you knew who he was, what round would you take him in?
I think that the earliest I'm comfortable taking a kicker in.
No, not a kicker. You knew who the number 1 kicker was going to be.
If I knew it was going to be the number 1 kicker, I'd probably be okay at the 15th round. I just think you're giving up an edge with potential handcuff running backs because all the handcuffs are going to be.
But I'm still going to get them. I'm still going to get like that's my point. We just said that we were going to these are all drop candidates. I am not okay, let me okay, you didn't agree with me, so I'm going to talk to Stopa. Stopa, if you knew who the number 1 kicker was going to be, what round would you take him in?
Well, I mean, I think accepting your hypothetical where you took him here is okay because these other guys are droppable, but you don't have any way to know that that's going to be the case. And I do agree with his point that, I think it was a round or so too early, but I get the point. I mean, you could argue that Tucker is
locked in
among
top
the
5.
Yeah, he's locked in top 5 every year. I get it.
And Todd, in the 3-4-5 scoring, meaning like 55-yard field goal is 5.5 points. Distance kicking, they trust Tucker to take 60-yarders, 58-yarders.
I mean, historically, the guy who takes the kicker first loses.
Oh.
I mean, isn't that, I don't know. I don't draft many of these season-long teams. I'll do 600-700 best balls and maybe 6 season-long teams. Okay, so all joking aside, we started seeing Tucker miss a little more than we had at the end of last year.
That's a good point.
And we also have a team. Something that I'm very focused on is there's certain teams that go for it on 4th down more than others. And I think that takes just enough off of Tucker that I don't feel the need to. And I've had years where I reached for him. I just don't see it this year.
Who's kicker 1 then, Todd?
Dicker the kicker.
What, okay. I mean, Theo, who's kicker 1?
I mean, you might have drafted kicker 1.
Okay. So, again, the point
I was
is...
joking. I don't put any thought into kicker. I guess I will at some point.
Well, that's because you play too much best ball. So here's the point. There's nothing more satisfying to me when I beat your team by like 2 points and Justin Tucker had like 17 that week.
Hey, I upset so many people early on in fantasy. I used to draft David Akers every year, and Philly was lousy in the red zone. And I remember one time in a championship game, Akers had like 18. And this is back when you only got 3 points no matter the distance. Akers had like 15 or 18 points, and boy, was that guy upset in chat. But I get it. Kicker is one of the positions.
Fair enough, guys. After this round, I just want to let everyone know that's watching along. Is it my pick right now? Hold on, let me make my pick. So I'm going to take right here. I'm going to stack with Justin Herbert. I'm going to take Gerald Everett. There it goes. Okay, just in case Waller gets hurt, as he always does. But I'm going to move the board up. So if you want to see the whole board, once I move the board up for the viewing audience, the link is in the video description below. Click on that link. It says full board, and you'll be able to see the full board. But for the viewing audience, what I'm going to do right now, guys, is I'm going to move it up. Tell me if is that okay that I moved it up there? Okay, good. We have a couple extra rounds now. So if you want to see rounds, what is it? 1 through 3, just go into the video description below. All right, let's go through it. So Anthony Richardson, Theo. Oh, look, defense comes off the board. See, I was on to something here.
It's such a bright orange color.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like I forgot the defenses, Anthony Richardson, it's so easy to see him being, and my bold prediction on the Player Profiler podcast was that he will outscore one of the big 4. Anthony Richardson, I mean, you have the perfect floor-ceiling combination with Dak Prescott. Is this how you're playing the quarterback position in single QB leagues?
When I've gone with a double tap of quarterback outside of like round 10, I don't mind double tapping it. Like I had a draft the other night where I had Daniel Jones and Geno Smith. Again, like it was a luxury pick. I feel like I'm pretty balanced at this point. I think he was one of the best values on the board. I was still able to get what I consider a strong handcuff type running back in Roschon. There was a couple other players. I had Jerome Ford in my queue as well. But at the end of the day, like I think Richardson gives me a little bit of an edge pick Alan. Like if it really, really works out, then he's a guy they can consider using down the stretch. If he gives us the kind of production that we saw from like Fields last year. So I'm okay with it. Like I think a lot of times in NFFC, I'll go single quarterback. I'll go naked, and I'll have one quarterback with no backup quarterback. We have that first waiver wire run. If I need an emergency quarterback, then I might be drawing dead anyway. But if I do wait, I don't mind double tapping.
By the way, I've had a lot of questions in the chat about my kicker pick. I'm not going to defend it, but I'm going to saying that there's only
That's all you've done is defend it.
Oh, there's only good point. There's only one kicker I would take in round 13 plus, and it's Justin Tucker. It's not because I think he'll be kicker one, it's because I think he'll be a top 3-5 kicker, and he's got a late bye. So if you have a good kicker and he has a late bye, and you don't have to use an extra roster spot, like when you take kicker 2, you don't really want to drop that kicker, and then you eat an extra bench spot in their bye week. So again, it's not for everybody. It's only for people that like winning. So
I do agree with the late buy. The late buy is a big deal. You don't want to take a kicker early who has a week 5 bye,
right?
And then you're cutting him or using an extra roster spot.
There it is.
The late buy does help.
Last year, Tucker had a week 5 or 6 bye. I did not take him. I took Butker, who sucked early. So,
and if you're a high volume guy and you're playing in a ton of fantasy leagues, you don't want to have to worry about rotating kickers. So I think that's a good point, Alan.
Right. By week 13, I'll know if I'm how do you add up to 13 real quick? If it's 5 and 8, then I'm out. I'm not, it doesn't matter anyway. But if I'm 8 and 5, I'm in it. It's like, I know that I have to hold on to Tucker. So that's the only reason. It's late buy and a good kicker. Both of those things have to be present to take an early kicker.
I love the Mims pick by Billy.
Yes.
I had Mims in my queue right there when I took Roshan. It was Roshan or Mims. I think he's really, really just a good player, and I think that there's a perception of a target jam, but these things have a way of working themselves out.
Yep. Todd takes Zamir White. I've had some offers in my dynasty leagues for Zamir White. I mean, Josh Jacobs seems like he's pulling he's the Le'Veon Bell here. Like he's serious.
Well, the other thing that you got to keep in mind with these guys who hold out, I never assume anyone's going to leave money on the table. But what we've seen multiple times is guys who don't come in until the last minute, they get hurt. Because they're not in game shape and they come and they start right, and then week 1 they give him 15 carries and he pulls up with a calf or something. So Zamir White is a handcuff. He is the number 2 guy there. But I can also tell myself a story that if Jacobs doesn't hold out but gets hurt, or he could come in and fake an injury for all we know at this point. Anyway, I
fake an injury. How dare you? How dare you?
More likely, well, we don't need to be conspiratorial. More likely, he could have a soft tissue injury and he doesn't want to play with it because he doesn't have a long-term contract. Yeah. Like we saw with Lamar the last 2 years. So, and Tank Williams is a former NFL player, writes for Yahoo, wrote that he sees that as a possibility for Saquon when he signed the 1-year deal just now. So, I think that's reasonable.
Yeah, you said it better than me. Marvin Mims is a guy that I like a lot, but he started off with an injury. And a lot of times when you got a rookie especially when, he not only has to beat out the 2 main guys, Tim Patrick's still there. Whenever you see Russell Wilson out and about, it's always with Tim Patrick. So I like him there, but I felt with Pitts being a little lame, Gesicki is a guy people are sleeping on. He's a big play tight end. And I think he is going to have a very nice year.
I have a lot of Gesicki in best ball.
Yeah.
It's easy to stack Patriots in best ball, and Gesicki's a good guy to stack. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's not as ideal in this format, but, if Pitts starts slow or misses a couple games early, I feel like I'm getting a lot of upside.
All right, guys, it's not pretty, but Zeke Elliott, he's going to sign somewhere. The minute he does, he's going to move up. So, again, it's not like I love the pick in round 15, but, I mean, I'll start with Theo, man. What is what's the best that Zeke can do right now as far as landing spot?
Well, I think that for these kind of street free agent guys like him, for the most part, it's an injury happening that we're not going to foresee, and that's where Zeke will land. That's what I think is going to happen with him. I think that it'll be some team with the need for a running back, and that's what he's going to land. So I don't think it's a terrible bet.
I mean, would you rather have him or Fournette if you're taking a street free agent?
I might rather have Fournette.
Yeah, I thought about it. About it.
But I don't know if I would be going for those guys at this point. I don't know. It's fine though. Where he goes it's fine.
Right. I mean, I'll see who you take that you would have taken over Zeke at this point, but it's like if he does land in a good spot. I mean, the guy did have 12 touchdowns in a bad season last year, you know? So he's only 27. He's not 31.
Yeah, no, you're right about that.
Yep. All right, so Tyquan Thornton goes off the board. He's a sleeper that I've taken. Again, it's like I love those guys but it's just like, when are you going to start him? That's the question. Stopa to Brand takes the Bills. Terrace Marshall's the other guy I thought about here. You could easily see him being a player that like, ooh, okay, that's an every week top 35 wide receiver if he takes the next step. All right, Theo, you're on the clock here. On the turn, so this is who you would have taken ahead of Zeke. We're about to see. Pierce, yep. I mean, at least he has it.
This one's interesting. I have a few guys in my queue, and I'm kind of trying to game theory if I can get them back in the next round.
And I do like that Chris Ricario took Richie James. I thought about him. He was off the board, obviously, at that point. Our guy DK took McBride. And what else did I see in this round? Irv Smith was always an interesting pick. Come on, Theo. That clock's ticking. It's ticking.
I know. I'm thinking here.
Don't screw this up, Theo. Don't screw this up. Stopa. Bills defense. You know more about defense than I do, and that's your team. Do they profile to be good this year?
I think they're very deep on the defensive line and the secondary, and if they can stay healthy and Miller comes back, then yeah, and plus you want a defense that is going to be favored in a bunch of games, and so not only do they have talent, but they're projected to win 11.5 is their over or under, so that's the kind of defense that I want. Somebody who's going to be playing from the lead, because that's where sacks and turnovers happen.
Hey guys, how much do you pick a defense versus looking at the weekly matchups? Is it a week-to-week streaming thing or?
Well, I think when you can hit on a defense, kind of like your kicker argument, set it and forget it. I mean, I think it makes more sense in a lot of home leagues where you have a lot of negative for scoring to try to stream defenses. But when it comes to high stakes, you're looking for defenses that can force turnovers that are getting to the quarterback. And a lot of times you get, the better offenses because they're going to be getting a chance for more sacks and potentially more interceptions. But I don't know. It's Alan. It's always difficult to draft the top ranked defense at ADP. Those teams don't always come through. But I do like looking at the early season schedule and kind of drafting a couple of those defenses. No table talk because they're still on the board.
Yeah.
But there's a couple teams that have very favorable schedules through the first 4 or 5 weeks that have been pretty good targets. So you don't have to take, the 49ers or the Cowboys or the Eagles, some of these, higher drafted defenses.
Well, here it goes. I mean,
I don't know that there's any really dominant defenses right now.
Right. Well, that's my point. And that's why Todd.
I like that Dallas defense, Todd. That Dallas defense
I do too. But they've also been inconsistent, right? There's certainly the talent there, and the Niners, there's certainly the talent.
By the way, Todd, this is why I took the Washington defense.
Arizona week 1.
Arizona week 1. I mean, I don't want to wait until the 18th round and someone else takes them.
But then you play Stopa's Bills week 3 and you're cutting.
Well, I'm dropping them in week 2.
Yeah.
If there's a defense or a kicker I really am high on, right? A few years ago, I liked Matt Gay with the Rams the year they won the Super Bowl, and I took him in almost every league. And that was I just thought that it was a big mistake that the Tampa Bay had let him go. I thought he had a really good leg. So if you have someone late you really like, and I do with the kicker, then to me it makes it easier. Same thing with the defense. I'm just not normally the guy who is taking. I normally do like to take one of the two if there's someone I really like, but I just haven't put any time into defense because this is only the second season long I've done.
Well, okay, so that's what I'm saying. That's what Commanders Week 1 play Arizona. That's why I took them. I'm gonna
Todd, I don't mean to interrupt you, Alan. This is the first time you've done a redraft league since we did the hard way draft against one another.
Yeah.
And we're not going to say where that draft was out of respect to Alan, but
well, and
we'll call it the hard way.
I have Breece Hall in the third.
Excellent pick. Great pick, by the way. Great pick. Oh, good. Brock Purdy. I like that. All the good news on Brock Purdy. By the way, Stopa, are you buying into the Brock Purdy is healthy and that he's starting week 1?
I was really skeptical that he was going to come back and be healthy when that injury first happened. It does seem like the news has been good, but what really caught my attention was just the other day, a quote from Debo about how good Lance has looked, and that it's going to be an intense competition or something like that. That really perked my eyebrows because that's the first I had seen really all summer that they were viewing it as a competition as opposed to it was Purdy's position. So it would be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah. No, the end game is key here because these are guys that, right now, you could drop. But also, I remember in the NFFC a couple years ago, I got A.J. Brown in the 18th round. Right? Nobody wanted him. He was the rookie that was like, oh, he's in a bad situation. He's behind Corey Davis. And then what happens? He ends up being, somebody that you want on your fantasy football team. So these picks do matter, don't they?
Well, the NFFC, I'll say that the NFFC, like you used to be able to get bargains on rookie wideouts. Now people want to steam those guys up. It's draft capital and talent profile, comes through. Like I think if A.J. Brown's rookie season, if he was available, like he would go in like the 10th round. Like you're not going to see discounts anymore. But Alan, that was awesome. That was a great one. That was a year, you had DK and AJ and a lot of fun. Debo Samuel had some fun weeks. That was a fun rookie class.
Yeah. Theo Graminger, while you're waiting to pick, though, why don't you just quickly promote what you are working on right now? You are the head of content over at Player Profiler. So anyone watching this, obviously you should follow the OG Fantasy. We're going to go through everyone's promotional stuff. But right now, what are you working on that you want people to follow?
I appreciate that, Alan. Yeah, so I do the Sonic Truth Dynasty podcast with Alan and Matt Kelly. That's been a really fun one for us. Then I do First Class Fantasy with Billy Muzio. I do press coverage, which is my solo pod. And then I've been filling in on Man versus Machine, which is kind of like a deeper, like thinking type podcast where we'll dive into, a specific position. That's Billy's podcast, but I've been filling in mostly this summer. And then I'm in the GOAT District on Wednesday nights on Player Profiler as well. So you can find me there. You can find a lot of my written work. I do
the hardest working man in the industry right now.
I'm grinding.
He looks like Brock Lesnar, and he works like Brock Lesnar.
He does look like. Yeah, you know what? You do look like Brock Lesnar.
So Todd used to give me the Brock Lesnar. I used to have my hair was slightly shorter, so it looked a lot more Brock Lesnar-y. But Todd, I appreciate that, man. And then my written work, Alan, I have like some pieces I do every summer. I have like the teammate arbitrage article. I have just a general arbitrage article. I do my Zero and Hero RB targets article. There'll be a lot of them coming out in August.
Am I the only one who heard the Beastie Boys when he did that? It's arbitrage.
Sabotage.
Right.
Sabotage.
Just me.
Hold on. That's that right there is the clippable moment of this podcast right there. By the way, and also Theo is a good guy, always available. I enjoy talking with you online, offline, Theo.
And on the phone. I like talking to you on the phone too, Alan.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I breathe heavy into the phone. You
calls
enjoy
me
it?
up. He does
So you
yeah.
like me, but you talk to Theo on the phone. I see how it is.
If you want to do phone, we could do phone. Before you pick Stopa, real quick, what do it's called? You've been in the fantasy industry for decades, but you've taken a little step back. Sometimes now you're more of a fantasy player. Anything you want to promote right now, it doesn't matter what it is. Let people know since they've been watching you draft.
I appreciate it. I'm not really promoting anything. If they want to follow me on Twitter, they can see the random stuff that I like to talk about. Some of which is sports.
Wait, you're up on the clock right now. So pick
I got
first.
it. Yeah, I got it. Appreciate it. Everything that's wrong with the world, and trying to fix it. So.
Yep. All right, Todd Burrows. Let them know where they can find you, what's going on, and what they should be watching of your content.
I wasn't following Mark on Twitter.
Well, you should if you want.
I just did. He wasn't.
I'm
going to
follow. I'm going to follow you.
Follow him back.
Too, Mark. I'm going to follow you.
But I go ahead, guys. I mean,
Todd, you're up. You're up.
Oh, up?
You're up as far as promoting to these poor people that are watching this stream.
I do a weekly article and best ball show for Sharp Football Network. I also have started doing my own Run to Daylight podcast again. I'm mostly a best ball guy, but hopefully, as you look at the team I drafted today, I think that I have some redraft chops, and
Todd, I'm having Warren Sharp on the RotoWire podcast in about 2.5 weeks. What's a good question to ask him? You got to
ask about the mustache.
Come on, everyone asked him about that. Should I ask him about his penis size? What should I do here?
No, Howard. You shouldn't.
Bush size, Bush.
Well, if
he has a big mustache, he might have a big bush too.
The thing with Warren is he's a betting expert, so you definitely want to cover. I've been trying to get him on my podcast. I haven't been able to.
Well, you're not as, listen, you're not RotoWire. You're Todd, what are you talking about? You work for Warren. You work for Warren.
It comes as Sharp. But the show I wanted to do with him was all about, team totals, right? Like each game now has the totals of what Vegas thinks a team is going to score. Take that and work it backwards as it relates to ADP.
Theo, I'm definitely not asking him that. What should I ask Warren Sharp? Come on. Todd's asking a smart question, but I'm not asking him about team totals. What do you think? Size?
I much respect to Warren Sharp, but I would rather hear from Rich Haribar or Todd. Because that's usually my
but I have
guy.
Warren coming on. I'm very excited about it. What do you think is a good question to ask him when he comes on the podcast?
I always like looking at the player props and how that correlates to fantasy, because sometimes you can find guys that were values. If you're very good with it, there might be a running back that's a little bit underrated in terms of ADP, and you see that Vegas is favoring him to be a guy who challenges for the rushing title or potentially leading the league in touchdowns. You also see weird props with the wide receivers. I saw a very weird one where I believe Mike Evans, and I know that there's probably a little bit of recency bias baked in for for bettors, just with drafters, but Vegas has Mike Evans receiving yardage total much higher than his ADP is indicating right now. So you can poke holes in Mike Evans this year,
that's
but
kind of where I was going with it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, you're right. Todd, I'm only busting balls. Stopa, back to the football stuff. And by the way, thank you both. I'm goofing on you, but those are good questions to ask. I took the Giants because week 2, they play Arizona. This way, I already know I can drop Commanders in week 1. I have week 2. Do you think that Arizona is a good offense to target from a DST perspective?
Does it get better?
Okay.
Of course. They have the lowest win total, don't they? If they're not the lowest, they're certainly one of the bottom, 3 or 4. So especially in the beginning of the year when Kyler might not be playing, defenses against them in September should be terrific.
All right, guys, I'm going to move the board around so everyone can see there. We're on the side here. All right, last couple picks here. Endgame. Todd, you're on the board here. What are you going to do with your last couple picks?
Well, there's so many tight ends I like here. There's a couple wide receivers I like here. I'm going to take one of my favorite guys. I think Isaiah likely has a floor, and if Andrews goes down, I think he's a smash. So
you don't. So then you're going kicker defense with your last couple.
Yeah, and there's late kicker defenses that I like, and so I didn't mind waiting.
All right. So if you're watching till the end of this stream, you love watching drafts. So do us a favor. Click the like button. Click the subscribe button. Let us know. Also, if you want to join one of the NFFC drafts, what you could do is go into the video description below, and you can join one of those. I'm running another draft. You can the 24th of August, 8 p.m., $350. Put your money where your mouth is. Beat me, and you get a free RotoWire subscription plus a chance at $250,000. I want you to follow Todd at Best Ball NFL. You follow Theo, as we all do, at the OG Fantasy, and then you follow Mark Stopa at Mark Stopa. Mark Stopa, I appreciate you coming on this live stream. We're going to have you back again many times. You're always an interesting follow. Theo, I will see you tomorrow, as we are going to review this draft at 10:30. So if you're watching this draft right now, at 10:30 a.m. Friday morning, we are going to review the draft. We're going to crap on everyone's draft that did bad. We're going to tell you who did the right thing. And then Todd Burrows, you're going to continue to post your favorite best ball drafts and screenshots that I scroll right past every time I see them. No, I'm kidding. Actually, how many best balls have you done at this point?
Over 400.
Yeah.
Todd, I did a good thing. I almost DM'd you. I had a interesting Best Ball Mania start where I got the 101. I took Justin Jefferson, and I pushed Lamar Jackson to QB1 overall with Mandrews at the 2-3 turn to get a little different kind of build. I thought that was interesting. Yeah,
I think you have to do that a couple times. I think that is a really good strategy.
All right, end game here, guys. Last couple picks.
Because really, when you think about it, once Pollard's off the board, right?
Yeah.
But to me, it's very, very flat. The whole third round is really flat. I think being when I have trouble picking someone, like to me, Higgins, Devontae Smith, Ramondre, Breece Hall, all those guys, you could argue the last guy is as good a pick as the first one. So why not move up and get a Lamar and an Andrews with a Jefferson? I think that's a great move.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Right here, just in case it happens, I'm going to take Trey Lance. I'll probably drop him in week 1. Why not? 19th round.
That's who I was going to pick.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of the defense I took? I mean, again, I haven't put any thought in.
Week 1, Burrows, week 1, they play the Chargers. I'm not in on them week 1. So you're going to have to already pick up another defense.
No, I won't.
You're going to play them against. And by the way, what's his name? Went out today with an injury. Who's their.
I mean, most points come. You can give up. I mean, most points come in defense from mistakes.
I love them as an elite defense, especially with Vic Fangio now as the DC.
Exactly.
Right, but week 1, it's a bad matchup.
No, I'm not going to. Well, I mean, I won't say I'm not going to, but I'm not going to go out of my way to pick up a second defense. Just, I mean, defensive scoring is just so wonky. I don't put a ton of stock in doing that. Do you Mark? Do you do that?
I decided to do it here. Simply because there weren't any sleeper guys who I really liked, and I felt like my team was pretty rounded out. So, I can see that both ways. I don't know that I love it, but I think if you can get two that are marginally better than who's going to be available on waivers all year, as long as there's not a sleeper guy who you want to be stashing, that it's okay.
Yeah, I think that Fangio is just. I've always, when I called it the Wade Phillips rule. Wherever Wade Phillips went, the defense scored good fantasy points. I I know Jalen Ramsey's out for a while, but
He got let's see, you're all off the clock here, so I'm just going to ask you, Devontae Parker, I mean, is he not the wide receiver one? I guess Juju, right? But I'm deciding between him. I don't know. I mean, wide receiver in the 20th round, what could go wrong? But
Alan, you got to scroll down. You got to scroll down
to
here.
me,
Yeah.
I'm always
We
looking
can't see
for a
it.
young guy who could break out.
you
more
can't see
than-
the whole. You can't see the whole board here. Oh, I got you.
Yeah.
I'll do it right here. Hold on. Am I up? Not yet. Okay.
I would have liked New England defense to fall to me. It was pretty close.
There you go.
I
Is
like
that better?
Josh Downs.
Yeah, I'm down on him. Just joking.
Yeah, I know.
Get it?
I got it.
Yeah,
But I like the concept there. You want somebody young who could break out. That's why I just took Justin Ross, somebody like that who, if they don't break out, you cut them, but maybe there's some theoretical
Correct.
upside.
And
this is
I almost took Justin Ross instead of Isaiah Likely, but I thought Likely was more likely than Ross.
Yeah, he was more probable.
Yeah.
All right, I am going to, with my last pick here, guys, I'm going to take, I know there's some, I'm deciding between two running backs. I'm going to take Evan Hull, knowing I will drop him just in case he breaks out in training camp and that Jonathan Taylor misses time, which is not going to happen. So
It's a hull of a pick.
yeah, hell of a, very good. Hey, boys, I appreciate everything you did. Stopa, thank you. You follow him at Mark Stopa, Todd at Best Ball NFL, and Theo Greminger. I will see you tomorrow on this channel at 10:30 a.m. I'm going to sign off now. Go sign up at the NFFC.
Great job, Alan.
Okay, cool. Great job by you guys. Did you have fun
Thank you,
tonight?
guys.
I love doing it. I might
All right.
if you do it again, I might have to join the second league.
August 24th. The link's in the video description. All right, boys. We'll see you next time.